The wolf in disguise. A wolf, who by his frequent visits to a flock of sheep in his neighborhood began to be extremely well known to them, thought it expedient, for the more successfully carrying on of his depredations, to appear in a new character. To this end he disguised himself in a shepherd's habit, and resting his forefeet upon a stick, which served him by way of crook, he softly made his approach toward the fold. It happened that the shepherd and his dog were both of them extended on the grass, fast asleep, so that he would certainly have succeeded in his project, if he had not imprudently attempted to imitate the shepherd's voice. The horrid noise awakened them both, and the wolf, encumbered with his disguise, and finding it impossible either to resist or to flee, yielded up his life as an easy prey to the shepherd's dog. Lesson. Hypocrites frequently lay themselves open to discovery by overacting their parts. The Ape and the Dolphin. A ship wrecked off the coast of Greece had on board a large ape, kept for the diversion of the sailors. The ship went down, and the ape, with most of the crew, was left struggling in the water. Dolphins are said to have a great friendship for man, and one of these fishes, taking the ape for a man, came under him and, supporting him on his back, swam with him to the mouth of the harbor of Piraeus. "In what part of Greece do you live?" demanded the dolphin. "I am an Athenian," said the ape. "Oh, then you know Piraeus, of course," said the dolphin. "No, Piraeus," said the ape, not wishing to appear ignorant to the dolphin. "I should rather think I did. Why, my father and he are first cousins." Thereupon the dolphin, finding that he was supporting an impostor, slipped from beneath his legs and left him to his fate. Lesson. The liar should take care to be well informed. The fox in the well. An unlucky fox, having fallen into a well, was able, by dint of great efforts, to keep his head barely above water. While he was there struggling and sticking his claws into the side of the well, a wolf came by and looked in. "What, my dear brother," said he with affected concern, "can it really be you that I see down there? How cold you must feel! How long have you been in? How came you to fall in? I am so pained to see you. Do tell me all about it." "The end of a rope would be of more use to me than all your pity," answered the fox. "Just help me to set my foot once more on solid ground, and you shall have the whole story." Lesson. Saying well is good, but doing well is better. Jupiter and the Herdsmen. A herdsman, missing a young cow that belonged to the herd, went up and down the forest to seek it. Not being able to find it, he prayed to Jupiter and promised to sacrifice a kid if he would help him to find the thief. He then went on a little farther and suddenly came upon a lion grumbling over the carcass of the cow and feeding upon it. "Great Jupiter," cried the man, "I promised thee a kid if thou wouldst show me the thief. I now offer thee a full-grown bull if thou wilt mercifully deliver me safe from his clutches." Lesson. The fulfillment of our wishes might lead to ruin. The blind sheep. A certain poor sheep was so unfortunate as some years before his death to become blind. The owl, who had assumed to himself the profession of occultist to His Majesty the Eagle, undertook to cure him. On the morning when the operation was to have been performed, the sheep placed himself in the seat, and asked the occultist if all things were ready for cure. The occultist answered, "Yes, my instruments and plasters are all prepared, and nothing is wanting." "Aye," said the sheep, "the things you have mentioned are of least importance towards giving me that one satisfaction I desire by recovery of my sight. Tell me, how goes the world?" "Why, even just as it did," said the owl, "when you fell blind." "Sayest thou so, friend?" replied the sheep. "Then, prithee, hold thy hand and proceed no farther, for I would not give a blade of grass to recover my sight, if I must again be punished in beholding enormities so odious in the eyes of all innocent creatures on earth." Lesson. No remedy for the world's ills is as great an ill as any. The boy who cried wolf. A mischievous lad, who was set to mind some sheep, used to cry in jest, "The wolf! The wolf!" When the people came running to the spot, he would laugh at them for their pains. One day the wolf came in reality, and the boy this time called, the wolf in earnest. But the men, having been so often deceived, disregarded his cries, and the sheep were left at the mercy of the wolf. Lesson. A liar cannot be believed even when he speaks the truth. The hawk and the farmer. A hawk, pursuing a pigeon with great eagerness, was caught in a net which had been set in a cornfield for the crows. The farmer, seeing the hawk fluttering in the net, came and took him. The hawk besought the man to let him go, saying piteously that he had done him no harm. "And pray what harm had the poor pigeon you followed done to you?" replied the farmer. Without more ado, he wrung off his head. Lesson: do unto others as you would have them do to you. The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. A country mouse, a plain, sensible sort of fellow, was once visited by a former friend of his who lived in the neighboring city. The country mouse put before his friend some fine peas and wheat stalks, and called upon him to eat heartily of the good cheer. The city mouse nibbled a little here and there in a dainty manner, wondering at the pleasure his host took in such coarse and ordinary fare. Finally, the city mouse said to his host, in their after-dinner chat, "Really, my good friend, I am surprised that you can keep in such spirits in this dismal, dead and alive kind of place. You see here no life, no gaiety, no society, in short, but go on and on in a dull, humdrum sort of way from one year's end to another. Come now with me this very night and see with your own eyes what a life I lead." The country mouse consented, and as soon as it was dark, off they started for the city, where they arrived just at the end of a splendid supper given by the master of the house where our town friend lived. The city mouse soon got together a heap of dainties on a corner of the handsome carpet. The country mouse, who had never even heard the names of half the meat set before him, was hesitating where he should begin, when the room door creaked, opened, and in entered a servant with a light. Off ran the mice, but everything soon being quiet again, they returned to their repast, when once more the door opened, and the son of the master of the house came running in, followed by his little terrier, who ran sniffling to the very spot where our friends had just been. The city mouse was by that time safe in his hole, which, by the way, he had not been thoughtful enough to show to his friend, who could find no better shelter than that afforded by a sofa, behind which he waited in fear and trembling till quiet was restored again. The city mouse then called upon him to resume his supper, but the country mouse said, No, I shall be off as fast as I can. I would rather have my wheat stalk with peace and security than all your fine things in the midst of such alarms and frights as these." Lesson: a crust with quietness is better than a feast eaten in fear. The Two Travelers. As two men were traveling through a wood, one of them took up an axe which he saw lying upon the ground. "Look here," he said to his companion, "I have found an axe." "Don't say I have found it," replied the other, "but we have found it. As we are companions, we ought to share it between us." The first would not, however, consent. They had not gone far when they heard the owner of the axe calling after them in a great passion. "We are in for it," said he who had the axe. "Nay," answered the other, "say I am in for it, not we. You would not let me share the prize, and I am not going to share the danger." Lesson: he who shares the danger ought to share the prize. Mercury and the Woodmen. A man felling a tree on the bank of a river by chance let his axe slip from his hand. It dropped into the water and sank to the bottom. In great distress at the loss of his tool, he sat down on the bank and grieved bitterly, when Mercury appeared and asked him what was the matter. Having heard the man's story, he dived to the bottom of the river, and bringing up a golden axe, offered it to him. "That is not mine," said the woodman, and he refused to take it. Mercury dived a second time and brought up a silver one. "That is not mine either," said the man. Mercury dived a third time and brought up the axe that the man had lost, and this one he took with great joy and thankfulness. "Thou hast been so truthful," said Mercury, pleased with his honesty, "that I shall give thee not only thine own axe, but also those of gold and silver." The woodman told his adventure to his mates, and one of them at once set off for the river and let his axe fall in on purpose. He then began to lament his loss with a loud voice. Mercury appeared as before and demanded the cause of his grief. After hearing the man's account, he dived and brought up a golden axe, and asked him if that was his. "Yes, yes," said the covetous fellow, and greedily attempted to snatch it. "Dost thou think to deceive one who sees thy heart?" said Mercury sternly, and he not only declined to give the golden axe to him, but refused to let him have his own again. Lesson: dishonesty overreaches itself.